And although the FBI refers to this private category as a non-investigative subset, the individuals enlisted are officially recognized by the government as being known or suspected terrorists. Which such authorizations were only reserved for the FBI on investigative categories of known or suspected threats, not for non-investigative subjects on a private category. And just to give you some context into the alarms about the FBI doing this within this subset. So outside of the FBI's private category, there are two higher stages that are regulated by the Department of Justice. That being preliminary inquiries and full investigations. Preliminary inquiries, which are active investigations for suspected terrorists, and full investigations, which are active investigations for known terrorists. And as civilians are documented with reasonable suspicion under the preliminary inquiry stage, that is how the FBI is classifying the nominations on their private category, documenting non-terrorist as suspected threats. Which raises not only ethical concerns about this category, but also civil rights concerns, due partly to its unregulation, but also upon that classification, it opens the FBI to do a wide range of activities. That including conducting extensive surveillance tactics, interacting with individuals covertly, monitoring personal communications and activities, and conducting physical surveillance. All of which that outside of an active investigation, they would not normally be allowed to do. And just to give you some context about the gravity of the situation here, I want to show you a previous case about an animal rights activist who, despite not being charged with any crime, was placed on the terrorist watch list and labeled by the FBI as a suspected terrorist, and the type of powers and consequences that they were able to exercise over him because of that classification.
One of those activists is 44-year-old Scott Crow, an Austin, Texas resident, self-proclaimed anarchist. He has just learned he was targeted by the FBI from 2001 until at least 2008. Using the Freedom of Information Act, Scott received 440 pages of heavily redacted documents revealing the FBI had traced the license plates of cars parked in front of his home, recorded the arrival and departure of his guests, observed gatherings that he attended at bookstores and cafes. The agency also tracked his emails and phone conversations, picked through his trash to identify his bank and mortgage companies, visited a gun store where he'd sought to purchase a rifle for self-defense. Agents monitored, also asked the Internal Revenue Service to examine his tax returns and even infiltrated activist groups he associated with. While Crow has been arrested a dozen times in his years of activism, he has never faced a charge more serious than trespassing. He's among a growing number of people and groups finding themselves on the receiving end of government spying. Well, Scott Crow joins us now from Austin, Texas, to tell his story. And we're also joined from Washington, D.C. by Mike German, National Security Policy Counsel for the American Civil Liberties Union. He previously served as an FBI agent specializing in domestic counterterrorism from 1988 to 2004. The FBI, and talk about the extent that they showed of their surveillance of you.
Well, let me backtrack for a second. I first found out that I was listed as a domestic terrorist in 2006. The FBI, in the way that they ended up doing with a lot of law enforcement around the country, is they let the local DAs and local law enforcement officers know in different cities. So in 2006, they let the DA in Baton Rouge know. And he let the lawyers for the Angola 3 know, and the Angola 3 lawyer told me. And that was the first time I ever heard about it, that I was listed as a domestic terrorist and an animal rights extremist. And what it did was it opened up this world of possibilities in this Kafkaesque world where I'm not being formally charged with anything, but all of these things are happening. I mean, I could see people sitting out in front of my house for years. I mean, all different kinds of cars. And I'm not a paranoid person. I live in a very transparent, open glass house, and but I could see all these things happening. There was a BOLO that was issued, a Be on the Lookout report that was issued in 2008, in the Austin Police Department that said I might injure police officers, burn down police cars, or incite riots. And the way I knew about it is because people from the city that I had worked with told me that they saw this poster with my picture on it. Now, again, I couldn't do anything about this. Well, finally, in 2010, I get these documents that list me as a domestic terrorist since 2001, and the picture starts to become clear on all of the things that the FBI has been doing across multiple states to investigate me and to sow dissent, basically, amongst local and regional law enforcement. The infiltration happened over and over again in different groups, in different events. There would be law enforcement and informants and people gathering information at all different levels, city, county, state, and federal authorities, between that sharing information and all of these things. Going through the trash was part of it, but really what to me, what I think we should talk about is that how much money they spent investigating me and not charging me with anything. You know, like if I'm the tip of the iceberg and there's other people in other communities that they're doing this with, how much is the government spending to do something like this? And what kind of chilling effect does it have on activist communities and on us as citizens in this country?
That is a very important question. Mike German, you're with the ACLU. There have been a number of raids. These are the obvious, more obvious manifestations of this. Can you talk about how wide this surveillance is and what you understand is happening in other parts of the country?
Sure. I think, like Scott said, we only see the tip of the iceberg, but, you can imagine for a political activist, kind of like Scott recounted, when the FBI is going around telling local officials that this political activist is a terrorist, that cripples their ability to be effective in their advocacy. So it has a real serious effect on our democracy, and that's really, one of the most dangerous parts about this.
And as you were hearing Scott Crow state, this information is sent to many businesses, corporations, government departments, and police. Both cities, state, and local police is sent that information through the NCIC. And if you guys don't know what the National Crime Information Center is, when you get stopped by police, partially the reason why they ask you for your government ID is to look your name up in that government database to check if there's any warrants out for your arrest or if you're wanted for any crimes. That's where the government keeps all that information about suspected citizens. And the FBI sends that national security alert about an individual through that system to police departments all across the United States. And that authority was only reserved for the FBI on official investigations, with someone posing an active threat to national security, not for non-investigative subjects on a private category.